I died the year I loved Jimmy the most. At 17, I got bullied so badly it left me in a daze. I fell off a tall building. 10 years after I died, the bullies lived their lives smoothly. Meanwhile, my soul stayed by my brother Jimmy's side, watching him become one of the most promising doctors at the hospital. But I also watched him destroy his future because of me. The scalpel meant to save lives became a murder weapon. When I saw him standing in a pool of blood, heartbroken, I found myself back at 17. The long-lost feeling of pain hit me. The air, mixed with the earthy smell, filled my lungs. I instinctively looked up and met eyes with Anna. In my past life, she led the bullies. 10 years younger, she looked just like the woman tied to the operating table, her face twisted with pain. It hit me instantly, I had been reborn. Back to when the nightmares began. Anna's foot crushed my left hand against the rough gravel, grinding it. Pain spread instantly. "Selena, I told you to let me copy your homework. Why'd you refuse?" She stopped talking because I grabbed a rock with my right hand and smashed it against her foot. Anna wasn't a good kid. She liked wearing slippers around campus. Unsheltered skin met sharp stone, and the next second, blood dropped. She screamed and let go of my hand. She couldn't believe the one who always took the bullying was fighting back today. I got up immediately and took off running. Max, Anna's rumored boyfriend, showed up at once, trying to block me. I threw the rock at his face. As he dodged instinctively, I dashed past him. "Grab her!" Anna shrieked behind me. I hadn't used this body in 10 years, but I was running like my life depended on it. I needed to see Jimmy, my brother from another mother, who lived 10 lonely years before giving up everything for me. The school was full of students. It was recess. I ran hard. The overexertion made my heart race, the sound pounding in my ears, a long-lost feeling of being alive. I ran so fast I didn't notice the person in front of me until I collided with their chest. I opened my mouth to apologize, but my throat was hoarse. "Selena?" The person spoke first. I looked up at him. 18-year-old Jimmy wore his school uniform, his cool expression touched by a hint of a smile. Clean, like a fresh blanket of snow. Not like that day when he stood with a scalpel amid a pool of blood, a soulless puppet. Tears fell immediately. Jimmy's expression turned flustered. People bustled in the hallway, some looking at us with curiosity. But I just looked at Jimmy, tears falling. A window in the classroom opened. Someone propped their chin up, teasing, "Jimmy, are you still flirting with girls when the college entrance exams are near?" Jimmy ignored it, turning slightly to block the view, and took my hand. Then he noticed something wrong with it. "Selena, let's head to the nurse's office." I was sobbing as I followed him. The school nurse was busy. I sat on a bed, watched Jimmy put iodine on my wound. Tears, still falling, dotted the white sheet. "What happened?" Jimmy asked, lifting his eyes to meet mine. I paused. "Nothing, just tripped while walking." I couldn't tell him. The image of him slicing up Anna and Max 3 times over with a scalpel was still vivid. Once Jimmy finished with the iodine, he carefully placed a band-aid on my hand with his beautifully artistic hands. Those hands that so many nurses secretly admired. In the end, stained with sin. "Jimmy." He lifted his eyes after smoothing the band-aid. "What is it?" "I just miss you," I said quietly. "So much." A smile bloomed in his eyes, the evening light warming his face. "Selena, we just went home together a few days ago. Both our parents had passed early, and my father had entrusted me to his comrade. Jimmy's dad, Matt, was often in the frontier. His mom, Kate, was busy too. My childhood was tied with Jimmy. Just a year older, yet he always took care of me. A girl without a home falling for the one person who took her to heart was pretty natural. But I couldn't tell him. He saw me as a sister, and saying anything might cost me even that bond. This hidden affection was Anna's discovery. At 17, I walked into the dorm shaking from wet clothes to find my bed and clothes covered in mud. Roommates pinched their noses in disgust. Something snapped in me, and I stormed into Anna's dorm like a madwoman. She wasn't there. "She's smoking upstairs," her roommate informed me. Bursting onto the rooftop, I threw my mud-caked clothes at the group of girls. Anna dropped her cigarette, swearing under her breath, and slapped me. The girls surrounded me, shoving and cussing, pushing me to the rooftop's edge. Anna squinted at me. "Selena, dare to fight back now?" Her eyes glinted, breaking into a laugh. "I forgot, you dirty girl like your brother." Anna's words pierced, and I lashed out. "No. You read my diary." "So what?" Anna folded her arms, her lips blooded. "Curse girl, just trying to clean off your bad luck." I snapped, swung my hand toward Anna's face. She pushed me hard. There was nothing to grab onto on the edge. In that moment of losing balance, I reached for anything. Just the wind, Anna's pale face the last thing I saw. I died at 17. My lost soul stayed 10 silent years with Jimmy. Isolated from the world. When we separated, it was almost time for class. I rushed over to my classroom but got stopped. "Selena, Mr. Frank wants to see you in his office." He seemed really mad. Anna and her sidekick Linda were in the office when I got there. Mr. Frank frowned as Anna faked a tear. "It hurt a lot, Frank." I knocked on the door. "Excuse me." Mr. Frank's gaze cut like a knife. "Get in here." "Apologize to Anna." I lowered my gaze, showed my bandaged hand. "Sir, Anna was the one who—" "Selena." Mr. Frank snapped. "Do you need to be told twice?" I pressed my lips together, remembering how obviously biased and indifferent she was in my previous life. I turned to Anna. "I'm sorry." Anna smirked, a haughty smile on her face. "It's fine." This was definitely not the end. It was just her way of announcing she'd step up her game to make my life miserable. As I walked out of the office, Anna's facade dropped instantly. She shoved me hard against the wall. Bones met concrete. She squinted her eyes, smiling. "Selena, just you wait." On Saturday, I went home with Jimmy. Kate must have just left. There was a note and a stack of cash on the table. The veggies in the fridge were a little rotten, so Jimmy cleaned up and whipped up a few simple dishes. I filled the bowls with rice and sat across from him, sneaking glances his way. Jimmy ate quietly, chewing slowly. After I died in my past life, he graduated and became a doctor. Most of his meals were at the hospital. With back-to-back surgeries, he'd sometimes skip meals, eating cold food later. Even on breaks at home, he'd cook for himself, setting a place opposite him for an empty bowl and chopsticks. Then he'd clean up both afterwards. Jimmy's place was bare, just the essentials. It felt more like a temporary shelter than a home. Empty and cold. 7 years after my death, Jimmy didn't wash the dishes right away. He just sat there, staring at the other side of the table. He only had the dining room light on, everything else was cloaked in shadow. It was so silent, like he was trapped in a cage of quiet. Suddenly, he spoke. "Selena, don't be a picky eater." That was something he'd always say when we ate as kids, and I'd hand him the stuff I didn't like. The weekend flew by, and by Sunday afternoon I had my books packed. I told Jimmy I wanted to get back to school early. "Okay," he said, joining me for the early return. Back in my dorm, I opened my locker, half expecting to find things that weren't mine. In the past, Anna had Linda plant stuff as part of a plan to drag me down. The first weekend of every month, around 7, the dorm manager would check for presents and contraband. Previously, I'd been delayed at the door until she arrived, and outed with Anna's missing items in my locker. As a result, I was suddenly the target of everyone's anger. I glanced at Linda's locker in the dorm. It had a small floral combo lock on it. Linda caught me downstairs right at 7, keeping me from leaving by chit-chatting. I was antsy to go, but she held my hand until the manager came into my building, then let go. You better hurry back, Selena. I rushed upstairs, bumping into a group where Anna stood with the manager. Some of my skincare and jewelry are missing. Cost a pretty penny, Anna said dramatically. My hurried footsteps caught people's attention. Someone definitely took them, she continued, looking at me slyly. Maybe it was someone with a grudge. What do you think, Selena? Judging eyes turned toward me. The manager looked at me, skeptical. Selena, open up your locker for inspection. Auntie, I just got back, I protested. Anna giggled, covering her mouth. Maybe you took them before going home. Linda suddenly appeared behind me. Selena, I know you're mad at Anna, but stealing is wrong. Just give it back before things escalate. Her glance flickered for a second, but she recovered quickly. Go ahead and call the cops, I challenged. I already did. A girl at the end of the hall chimed in, her face cold. My mom's gold bracelet is gone too. The manager's expression soured, going from harsh to shocked, then back at me. Selena. Hand it over now. Once the cops come, it's out of my hands. The police station wasn't far from campus. It wasn't me, I insisted. Auntie, I'm missing stuff too. Another girl piped up. Anna looked uneasy, glancing at Linda. Linda grew nervous, whispering something in Anna's ear. Anna seemed to regain her composure. Selena, if it's not you, then why not prove it? Open your locker. What are you afraid of? Anna's provocations turned up the tension. I wanted to resist more, but the manager was fed up, barging into my room, Anna trailing. Passing me, Anna's lips curled in a smirk. She reached out, swinging my locker door open. Her smile vanished. Nothing of hers was there. Linda's expression changed. So who took it? The manager demanded hotly, speak up or else. A lot of us are missing things, a girl added, frustration in her tone. Anna looked mad, kicking a locker hard, something clattered. That familiar scent suddenly filled the room. That's my mom's perfume from abroad, a girl recognized it. Silence descended on the group gathered. Scrutinizing eyes shot toward Linda's locker, its floral lock in sight. Linda turned pale, shaking her head. It's not. Linda, I interrupted, smiling. If you're innocent, Anna said it herself. If not, then open up the locker, let's see. But Linda didn't move. I saw Linda in the hallway late leaving school, taking things, I added, further implicating her. Yet, back then, she was just following Anna's orders to frame me. History seemed to want to replay itself. The wail of police sirens approached. The manager held out her hand to Linda. Come on, open it up. Linda shook, refusing. A roommate spoke out suddenly. The code's 369. I saw her use it once. Someone quickly went for the lock. Linda tried to stop them, but couldn't. The combo unlocked. As the locker opened, a tipped perfume bottle soaked everything, jewelry, skincare, branded caps. The sirens hushed outside. Footsteps echoed fast in the hall. Officers in uniform emerged at the stairs. Linda froze, turning to tug at Anna's sleeve. Anna. It's not me. It was all her idea. Smack. Linda's face whipped to the side. Anna pulled back her hand, eyes icy, stealing and blaming others. I didn't think you'd stoop this low, Linda. Turning to the officers approaching, Anna pointed. It's her. She took the stuff. Linda was led away as gossip spread like wildfire that night. The dorm manager warned us to keep quiet. Linda wasn't smart. Too dumb to see it. In the past, after I died, Jimmy reported Anna. The school tried to bury it, but Jimmy wouldn't back down. Anna blamed it all on Linda, went scot-free. This time, I won't let Jimmy carry all that hate because of me. He should live clean, just focus on his research dreams. After being reborn, I rarely got a decent night's sleep, but I did this time. The next morning, I went to the cafeteria to find Jimmy. Jimmy, being an early riser, bought me my favorite snacks. He agreed right away when I asked if we could have breakfast together every day. There was a line at the bun stand, so Jimmy and I sat in a corner. He was listening to English on his MP3 and only took it off when he saw me. I held the soy milk Jimmy got me and stared at him without blinking. As a teenager, Jimmy was shy, and his ears were slightly red, though you couldn't tell from his face. Jimmy. Yeah. What do you want to do in the future? Jimmy looked up, his eyes clear and pure like a pristine lake in the snow. I want to do research. I was taken aback for a moment, then burst into a smile. You'll definitely become a great researcher. Jimmy looked at me, smiled, and patted my head. When we parted, I stood there, watching his figure walk away. He was tall and upright like a pine tree. But as I watched, my heart felt like it was being pricked by needles, a sharp, fine pain. 10 years is a long time. Long enough to become a prison. Adult Jimmy turned out to be a great doctor. He was skilled, humble, and conscientious, taking responsibility for every patient. Sometimes there were people he couldn't save. Facing the grieving families, he could only keep apologizing. The hallway was silent at midnight. He stood by the window in a daze. I stood by, watching him. But I couldn't comfort him or give him a hug. A soul has no physical form. His senior suddenly appeared in the hallway, patting him on the shoulder. Jimmy, life and death are a part of the world. We're not gods. We can only do our best. I know, Jimmy replied. He turned back and stared into the void, meeting my eyes. We locked eyes. I heard him say, "Senior, those are people they deeply love. It's not a momentary pain, it's lifelong. The longing becomes a needle in the heart, piercing repeatedly, causing immense pain. Until death." And he knew that pain better than anyone. Jimmy's eyes were filled with fractured light. I knew he couldn't see me. But for a moment, I saw a small reflection of myself in his eyes. By the time I got to the classroom, it was almost time for morning reading. Anna spotted me, immediately getting up from her seat. "Selena. It was you. Wasn't it?" She glared at me, looking a bit manic. I gave her a puzzled look. "What are you talking about?" "You saw." Her words trailed off. A lot of people were looking, and there were cameras up front. She couldn't say much here and wasn't dumb enough to make a scene. Anna grabbed my arm and dragged me out of the classroom, slapping me hard in the hallway. The window in the classroom opened a crack, but they didn't dare open it all the way. There were eyes peeking through. Anna glared at me but said nothing. Being reborn didn't change my family background or identity. The shadows of past bullying never faded, they lived in every moment I still felt. Torturing me day after day. All those once dull sensations of the soul became alive with each new wound. The dirty water poured down on me, punches hitting my abdomen, and burns left by cigarettes and lighters. Anna was my unshakable nightmare. Linda dropped out. The matter had reached the police, and while the school managed to hush it up, they wouldn't take her back. The day she came to get her stuff, she fought with Anna, leaving Anna's face swollen for days. Anna never lacked followers. Less than a week after Linda left, another girl appeared at her side. A very pretty girl. Also, someone I knew from my past life. Anna liked Max, but Max liked more than just Anna, especially Karina. When they were 17 or 18, they loved finding secluded spots for intimacy. In my past life, I once stumbled upon them by accident. Max held a grudge against me ever since. He'd say ambiguous things in front of Anna. Made her think I was after her crush. The bullying escalated from physical to mental. Karina appeared earlier than in my past life. She took Linda's old spot but was better at it in some ways. They'd corner me in the bathroom, forcing me to drink from the toilet. I didn't move. Anna glanced at Karina. Why are you just standing there? Are we really going to let her off if she doesn't? Karina hesitated, still not moving. Then Max, who was waiting outside, stormed in, yanking my hair hard. Anna turned on the tap in the sink. The sink filled up quickly. Anna nodded. The next second, the boy forced my head into the water with a strength I couldn't resist. I struggled desperately, but I was pinned down. Water flooded my lungs, but I couldn't escape the pain. Anna's voice was like a distant murmur above the water. Selena. Why do you insist on opposing me? Max yanked my hair up suddenly, and as I gasped for air, uncontrollable coughs racked my body. The feeling of despair, like the moment I fell in my past life. Max let go. I collapsed, gasping for breath. If I just, cough, take it. You'd really, cough. Let me go? Anna hesitated. Then she smiled like she'd just heard a massive joke, clutching her stomach in laughter. Laughing until her eyes teared up. The next second, she wiped away those tears. Of course not, Selena. My favorite sight is people giving in and begging, and then I finish them off with one more blow. Until I get bored. Which might not even be until you're dead. Anna smiled, the corners of her lips like a snake's tongue. My hands shook with a fierce tremor. I forced them into fists. The face before me blurred, countless versions of Anna's, shifting in my mind. Past life, this life. The faces arrogant after humiliating me, the faces stepping on my hand with disdain, the unconcerned faces after being bailed out even when accused. The twisted one, pleading with Jimmy after pushing me off the rooftop. Finally, they all fixed on that day. The slightly surprised face after shoving me down. Anna's departing figure was triumphant, like a victorious king. Dirty water on the floor stained my uniform. The blue and white slowly turning brownish black. I sat there, watching them walk away. Anna didn't notice. Max and Karina's fingers were entwined behind her back. Being reborn doesn't change your physique, intelligence, or social standing. But it does give you one gift. Knowing things before they happen. Small changes can't really shift the path of events. Like being held underwater by Linda and Max. I hope you'll enjoy the outcome I've arranged for you, Anna. It doesn't fall short of what happened in your last life. Anna's bullying continues. While having breakfast, Jimmy happened to notice something odd. Anna didn't handle a compass well, leaving a small scar near the corner of my eye. Jimmy put down his chopsticks, looked at the side of my face, and after a moment, asked, Selena, how did you get that scar near your eye? I gave a smile and repeated the same excuse as before, got it accidentally. Jimmy didn't say anything, just kept looking at me, his gaze clear. I avoided his eyes and changed the subject with a smile. I've been staying up late studying, feeling dizzy during the day, and accidentally hurt myself. He didn't press the topic further and seemed to accept it. Don't stay up too late at night. Health is the most important thing. I nodded obediently. In the afternoon after school, Anna seemed full of anger. As soon as the bell rang, I got up, bumped into her desk, knocking things to the floor. Anna shot up, grabbed my collar, and dragged me to the girls' restroom. She threw me hard against the wall and kicked the door shut. I'm not in a good mood today, and you're picking a fight. She tried to slap me, but I dodged. Frustrated, she picked up a stick nearby and struck my shoulder hard. The pain in the bone immediately caused a couple of tears to escape. When the second hit came, I didn't resist, and half of my face burned with pain. Still angry, Anna pinned my shoulder with one hand, ready to slap the other side of my face. But then I suddenly laughed. Anna, you're so silly. Anna hesitated for a moment, her hand didn't move, but she got angrier. What the hell are you talking about, Selena? Have you gone nuts? You think getting hit isn't enough? I just smiled, narrowing my eyes, yet my look towards her carried pity. What kind of look is that? Bitch. Anna slapped me hard, but I kept laughing. Max has been ignoring you lately, huh? Do you know why? I struck a nerve, and Anna froze. It's because he's with Karina now. Anna, do you know that every day after school, they go to the old equipment room for a date? Karina says you're so dumb. They've been together for almost a month, and you haven't noticed. You're still naively asking Max to the movies. Anna, why do you not only degrade yourself but let others play you like a fool? You're lying. Anna was livid. Go see for yourself. I bet they're making out and laughing at you right now. You. Anna wanted to hit me with the stick but paused. Selena, if they're not there today, you're done for. After throwing down the warning, she turned and walked away quickly. After her figure disappeared around the corner, I looked down and opened my clenched palm, revealing the key to the old equipment room. There won't be a next time, Anna. I didn't lie to Anna. In the past life, Max and Karina like to get cozy there. Our school is huge, and the old equipment room is in a secluded corner surrounded by trees, with no cameras. Hardly anyone goes there except for an old man who opens and locks the door daily. He's a bit forgetful, often losing keys or forgetting to lock up. Last time, there was a fire that reduced the equipment room to ruins. Only I knew Max started it. He liked to smoke and got careless with Karina. When the fire started, he fled and threatened me not to tell. The school never found out and let it go. After Anna left, I followed her immediately. The more I walked in that direction, the fewer people were around. Passing through the building, I heard faint noises behind me. I looked back but saw no one. Last time, until the fire burned out, no one realized it. This area is deserted. I pushed aside my lingering doubts. The door of the equipment room was slightly ajar, and voices were clear from within. Karina, you whore, why are you acting like a slut, stripped for anyone? Anna's voice stopped abruptly. I stood outside, peeking through a gap in the door. Karina's clothes weren't fully on, and Anna yanked her hair back harshly. Max tried to get in Anna's way. Anna waved a metal racket wildly. Max dodged and accidentally knocked over a metal shelf stacked with junk. The rack wobbled, teetering dangerously. Max tried to steady it, but it was futile. He tried to call for help, but no one was listening. No one noticed the cigarette butt in the corner, which had already ignited the nearest mat. I grinned, gently pulling the door shut, turning the key twice before stepping back a few. A loud crash came from inside the room, mixed with Max's pained screams. The argument stopped, frozen in time. Max? Max? Are you okay? Wait, let's lift this rack. Karina. You bitch. Instead of lifting the rack, you're just getting dressed. Then a flesh-on-flesh thudding noise. Followed by Karina's shrill cries. Fire. Fire. It's spreading. Let go of me. I need to get out and find help. Let go. The fire's growing. Karina's voice neared the door. The door thudded heavily, over and over. Accompanied by her desperate screams. The door won't open. Is anyone there? Please save us. The sounds jumbled together. Smoke began wafting from the window. I stood my ground, unmoving. Screams, curses, cries, and banging, the soundtrack of hell. An invitation from demons. I watched, still as a statue. Anna's voice was shrill, from curses to cries, down to pleas. Just like last time. I wanted to laugh joyously. But my mouth seemed paralyzed. Tears began falling without me realizing. Laughing, and then crying. Crying, then laughing. The nightmare-haunting 2 lifetimes seemed to fade into the despair-filled chorus. I turned, ready to leave through the forest on the other side. The wind lifted the fallen leaves, carrying them away. When I looked up, I saw the last person I expected. Jimmy. The wind swirled his hair. Jimmy's face showed no expression. His eyes moved from my face to the smoke billowing behind. I froze. Jimmy is a genuinely good guy. Quiet, distant, like everlasting snow on a high plateau. Inside, he's as gentle as spring. Immaculate, like flawless jade. Considerate. He had a bright future, loads of connections, and girls who'd secretly blush around him. I remember a new nurse, really pretty, with bangs and an oval face, who'd blush when she saw him. People like to match-make them. Once, she brought homemade cookies for Jimmy. Everyone teased him, and I watched on. She was really beautiful. But Jimmy didn't accept. He apologized and politely declined. The nurse walked away, eyes red. Friends joked he'd end up alone, but he didn't respond. What if he'd said yes? If he married someone he loved, if he continued being a doctor, saving lives. He could have had a happy life. But he didn't. He broke the Hippocratic Oath, his professional ethics, his nature. He used a scalpel, carving chunks out of bullies, asking just one thing. Do you regret it? I can't even fathom how he survived those 10 years. I dare not ponder when this plan took root in his mind. With a knife, he severed ties to a bright future. Step by step, heading to hell. Souls don't feel pain. But at that moment, I felt agony burning through me. That day, Jimmy called the cops. He calmly reported what happened and then drove to my grave. He didn't know I was with him all along. The hyacinths, neatly wrapped, had been there in the passenger seat all morning. He cleaned the blood off his hands with a tissue before carefully picking up the flowers. He walked slowly, one step at a time. In the black and white photo, I looked straight ahead, a smile on my lips. Jimmy placed the flowers down, wanting to touch me, but his hand froze halfway and then dropped. Anna was gone. I knew it. Selena. Why haven't you come to see me even once? I'm always here. The sunset bathed the sky in blood red, and sirens wailed closer and closer, shrill and piercing. The wind rustled Jimmy's hair, but his expression was as calm as a snowy plain. Selena. I wasn't a good brother. If there's a next life, would you still want to be my sister? Yes. I would. The officer on the path quickened their pace. No need for that. Jimmy looked up, meeting my gaze in the air. In the next moment, he curled his lips into a slight smile. Selena. The secret he kept his entire life, after avenging the girl he loved most, was left in the wind at the cemetery. I love you. But he didn't know. I heard him. Jimmy. I heard you. Jimmy. He's such a good person. I couldn't bear to share any of my dirty secrets with him. I couldn't speak, couldn't move, just stood there, staring at him in a daze. I even thought about turning myself in for a second. In the next moment, Jimmy walked towards me. He reached out calmly, "Give me." I was startled, didn't hand it over, instead hiding the key behind me. Jimmy repeated, "Give me the key, Selena." I looked at him, shook my head. Jimmy was silent for a moment, then suddenly moved forward and grabbed my shoulder. He locked eyes with me, his eyes bloodshot. "Give me the key, Selena." Then, head back through the woods. You're just out for a walk. You didn't see anything. The voice behind me continued but gradually weakened. I recalled the previous life's Jimmy. The 28-year-old Jimmy. Blood was everywhere in the house that day. So much blood. All three of them were covered in wounds. Jimmy stood among them, a scalpel fell to the floor, his eyes hollow and empty, like an abyss. Shadows flickered, and then overlapped with the person before me. 18-year-old Jimmy had the blood-colored sky reflected in his eyes, like a fire burning into my heart, scorching me to the core. I raised my hand. It was like last life, Jimmy standing in a pool of blood, looking at his blood-stained hand. I felt guilty for Jimmy. Not just because he sacrificed his future for me, but also because saving lives wasn't his dream. That was my fault. I wanted to be a doctor. Jimmy asked me, a long, long time ago. But I died at 17. So long ago, I forgot. In this life, I didn't die, Jimmy didn't kill anyone. I can still become a doctor, Jimmy can still do research. I have a chance to live through the rest of my life. 10 years, day by day. It trapped not just last life's Jimmy, but me in this life. But I refuse to accept it. Whether using a self-destructive way for revenge or going against my past pain to live a new life, neither one can mend the damage done. The two choices victims face are equally cruel. But I have to choose. What would the past Selena choose? She wanted to be a doctor. To save more people. To see the world's beautiful sights. To taste the world's delicious foods. To be with Jimmy. I won't forgive them. But I want to let myself go. If God gave me a new life, I want to finish the road I hadn't walked in my past life. I want to fulfill the unharmed, once carefree Selena's wishes. Call for help. I grabbed Jimmy's hand. Call for help, tell them there's a fire here. I held Jimmy's hand, ran wildly towards the campus center, my steps still a bit shaky. We ran into a teacher. I stopped but almost fell from unsteady steps. Teacher, the old equipment room is on fire. Call 911 quick. Jimmy spoke fast, looking anxious, yet tightly gripped my hand. The teacher was stunned for a moment. Is the fire big? Very big, there might be someone locked inside, we saw smoke from afar. The teacher called, then said, you go call the janitor's office to get the key, you go alert people to put out the fire. Jimmy nodded, pulled me along to the janitor's office. We passed by quite a few students, I alerted everyone about the fire. The old janitor had trouble moving, it took him a while to find the key, finally limping over. Some student took the key and rushed ahead. Suddenly the campus echoed with the sound of firetruck sirens. By the time we arrived, the fire was put out, black smoke billowing out. Inside you could only see darkness. A large crowd of students gathered, chattering, and Jimmy and I mixed among them. Someone inside shouted, we're alive. Dragged them out, one by one. The smoke had stained them so black you couldn't make out their faces. It was late, night hung like a curtain, heavily resting on my heart. I didn't speak, and didn't notice Jimmy beside me gripping my hand tightly, watching the three rescued people expressionlessly. A few days later they figured out the cause of the fire was Max's cigarette butt. The school buried it, labeled it an accident, and banned anyone from talking about it. Just like the last life. My death was also labeled an accident. The school covered it up, not letting anything damage its reputation spread out. Their foolish actions helped Anna cover her tracks, and also helped me in this life cover mine. Anna and the others didn't die. But this life might as well be the end for them. Max's leg was crushed, scorched by hot metal frames, he won't ever stand again. Karina had extensive burns needing surgery and skin grafts, her face was burned too. As for Anna, she went mad. Her former friends mocked her state, vividly recounting it to everyone like a joke. She really went mad. Her family locked her in an asylum because it wasn't ordinary madness, she attacked herself and others. She'd cut at her own flesh, slice by slice, like deli meat, saying sorry, it hurts, apologizing as if to the air. She would say as she acted it out. The people around widened their eyes. Really? I went to their house that day, Anna was cutting herself with a knife, her parents tried to stop her and she turned on them. It was terrifying. She said, shivering, I heard it's because Anna likes Max, but Max likes Karina, that's why Anna wanted to. I didn't listen any further. As I stepped out of the classroom, Jimmy was already waiting for me. He took my hand, and we walked home together. The traffic was crazy. The street vendors shouting, cars honking, people chatting on the sides. So much noise. Yet, I couldn't hear any of it. Not until we got home. As soon as the door closed, it felt like everything crumbled within me. Whatever had been holding me back vanished in an instant. I dropped to my knees and just started sobbing. If karma is real, maybe everything Anna and the others went through proves it. In a past life, Max loved kicking my stomach hard. Karina had left a scar on my face with a knife. Anna subjected me to a year of physical and mental torment. All of it came back to them, every bit. I cried uncontrollably, as if pouring out 10 years' worth of pain. Jimmy knelt down beside me, pulling me into his arms, holding me tight, as if he wanted to make me part of him. "It's okay, Selena. It's okay. It's all their fault. All their fault." His voice shook. Like he was caught between immense joy and sorrow, almost frenzied. Suddenly, I realized something, and I pushed him away. My tears blurred everything, I couldn't even see his face. But I sensed something had changed. I wanted to wipe my tears, but my hands were trembling. Then, he reached out and gently wiped my tears away. Slowly, my vision cleared. I met his gaze. In his eyes, I saw a tiny reflection of myself. Disheveled, in pain, but undeniably alive. Amidst the sorrow in his eyes, there was the thankful relief of regaining something lost. My Jimmy. The Jimmy who'd saved me countless times from the brink. Who I finally reunited with. Epilogue: Jimmy struggles with separation anxiety and insomnia. His insomnia was severe, even in his past life. He couldn't sleep until midnight, and when he did, it wasn't restful. I used to hover beside him while he slept. Watching his furrowed brow, his tense jawline, and that old stuffed toy by his hand. The toy he bought me with his pocket money when we were kids. I tried touching his brow. But with no corporeal form, my hand would just disperse before I could. Sometimes, Jimmy would startle awake. The world outside was silent, with moonlight spilling into the room. He wouldn't turn on the lights. Just leaned against the headboard, bathed in silver moonlight, lost in his thoughts. Sometimes, Jimmy seemed like a fragile glass doll to me. Shattered into pieces every solitary night. Fragments strewn everywhere. I wanted to pick up every piece, to mend him back together. But I couldn't touch him. The gap between my desire to save him and reality was like a grindstone, crushing me over and over. In the 6th year after my death, I finally gave up on seeing him again. Jimmy developed separation anxiety in this life. It showed up in the form of daily calls after he went to college. There was always a call from him every night on the dorm's landline. He didn't have anything urgent to say, just the usual. "How was your day? Did you meet your goals? Did you eat well?" It didn't take much time, just 2 or 3 minutes. Jimmy was always self-restrained. He was good at hiding his thoughts, he only showed me his gentle and polite side. One Thursday after night study, Jimmy called, as usual, asking the routine questions. I answered casually, and there was a brief silence. My new roommate called out to me. "Selena. My mom sent barbecue tonight, get ready to dig in." With our packed senior year workloads came bigger appetites. So it was normal to have a late night snack in our dorm. Jimmy seemed to hear her calling me. "I'll go then. Jimmy." I called his name. "Yeah? I missed you today." It felt like time stopped on the other end. It took a while before I heard his response. "I did too. I miss you a lot, Selena. A lot." The day after I told him I missed him, Jimmy caught the earliest train back after class on Friday. After night study, I walked out of the classroom and saw that familiar figure. Jimmy stood in the hallway, standing out among the students in uniforms. I turned to my roommate and pointed him out. "My brother is here to see me." She understood immediately. Upon seeing Jimmy, she grinned teasingly. Go on. Jimmy." "Selena." Jimmy handed me a bag. I opened it to find my favorite pastries. With half an hour before the dorms closed, Jimmy and I sat in a small pavilion. "Why did you come back suddenly?" The pavilion was quiet. I scooped up a piece of cake with a spoon and put it in my mouth. Some cream got on my lips. Jimmy reached for a napkin, gently wiping the corner of my mouth, smiling softly. "Just wanted to see you." The sweetness of the cream melted in my mouth. I panicked a bit and took a bite, accidentally dropping some on my left hand. Jimmy offered to wipe it off. The moment he touched my hand, I quickly withdrew, flustered. "I'll do it myself." Jimmy handed me the napkin, saying nothing. After cleaning up, I held the cake low in my left hand. Jimmy looked down. "Jimmy. Just wait a bit longer for me. Okay?" "All right." Jimmy answered quickly. I met his eyes, calm and tranquil like the sea. My left hand trembled slightly. Back at the dorm, my roommate excitedly pounced on me. "That's Jimmy. The legendary top student. Selena, why didn't you tell us he's your brother? Is the whole family just naturally smart?" Another roommate joined, then realized something. "Wait, you're siblings, so why the different last names? We're not biologically related. Is there a blood relationship?" "No." Then her eyes lit up. "Childhood sweethearts. He's so handsome, aren't you thinking of taking things further?" It was my first time in 2 lifetimes that someone brought this up. I felt a bit exposed, like someone had read my mind. Yet there was this subtle, comforting sense that this was what a normal high school life should be. The kind of harmless teasing and banter among friends I had never experienced before. So ordinary. Yet so heartwarming. Do you guys live together? Is there ever a scene where a brother forgets to bring a change of clothes and his sister accidentally exposes herself when bringing them to him, like in a comic book? My roommate wouldn't let go of me. I felt like my face was on fire. No. In my past life, my soul could pass through walls after death. When Jimmy was taking a shower, the steam from the bathroom was pouring out like crazy. I stood outside the door, watching the shadow reflected on the glass door, outlining the beautiful muscle lines of the man. It felt like the hot water in the bathroom was pouring on me instead. I tried stepping forward, but the moment my hand went through the door, I pulled it back like a guilty thief. I was like a monk tempted by offerings but too scared to take them. Jimmy was like a god to me. My heart was uneasy. I didn't dare to disrespect even a little bit. My roommate pointed at my ear and giggled, teasing that she'd tell our other roommate about her new discovery. I grabbed her hand, but she pulled me into a soft hug. She held me and laughed, and the next thing I knew, we were all goofing around together. Everything felt unbelievably wonderful. Everything before seemed like an illusion. Or maybe it was just a dream. Jimmy left on Sunday. The weekend he came back, I was still staying at school, studying in the classroom every day, so we hardly saw each other. Jimmy didn't want me to see him off, but I insisted, saying that studying too much gave me headaches, and I needed a break sometimes. At the entrance of the train station, Jimmy stopped and turned to look at me. Amidst the noisy crowd, I looked up and smiled at him, just as I was about to speak. Jimmy reached out, and before I realized it, he grabbed my left hand. The moment our palms touched, I felt a jolt, wanting to pull my hand back. But Jimmy held it tightly. He held every inch of my skin, every wound, every scab. "Selena." Jimmy lowered his eyes and met mine. I saw the waves crashing in his eyes. "Don't hurt yourself." My poor disguise and avoidance were mercilessly exposed by him. In his eyes, I saw my own wretched self again. Wounds don't heal that easily. The pain of my past life's wounds lingered over time, with nowhere to pour out the sorrow, and daily torment made me rotten inside. Physical harm was the sin Anna imposed on me. But as my rationality slowly twisted and eroded, it became the only way to confirm I was truly alive. Only pain made me clearly realize I was still alive. In the moment I pressed down with the compass on my left hand. I was like a patient taking a pill. Yet at the same time, I clearly knew I was sick. I didn't dare tell Jimmy. Jimmy didn't want to tell me either. We hid from each other. But we could easily see through each other. I didn't answer. I lowered my head and rested it on Jimmy's chest, listening to his heartbeat. One beat after another. He let go of my hand and held me in his arms. People flowed around us like a river. We stood there like two strangers. I didn't cry. After a while, I lifted my head to look at him. Jimmy. He leaned closer to me. I won't hurt myself anymore. I'll do my best to restrain myself. Okay. Jimmy looked serious. I'll keep an eye on you. I gazed at him, tracing his eyebrows and eyes. Jimmy. Yeah. I forgot to tell you. I love you a lot too. From my past life to this one. Always have, always will. Love filled with gratitude is too heavy. It's like a shackle. But Jimmy never tried to trap me. He never brought it up, positioning himself appropriately. And I was afraid of exposing my scars, always thinking of getting better before I confessed my feelings to him. But love is all about healing each other. We will both be okay.